perfect kind of workplace frustration? Where you hire someone who is, on paper, just absolutely perfect.
Oh, yeah, the Alex
The
scenario.
Alex scenario, exactly. Great resume, they nailed the interview, all the skills are there, you pay them what they asked for, and you sit back and just wait for the magic to happen, and
Yeah,
then it's just
chicken
nothing.
ain't flat.
It's worse than flat, it's confusing. Because you look at all the inputs, the salary, the skills, the resources, they're all there, but the output is, mediocre.
Hmm.
And usually when a leader hits this wall, they start pulling all the standard levers. They micromanage or add a KPI or, oh, the dreaded performance review.
Which just makes things worse, right? It's
Yeah.
that classic beating the horse to make it run faster approach. But the problem isn't usually about effort or skill. It's more like physics, organizational physics.
Organizational physics. I like that. Today, we are looking at a presentation that basically claims most of us are breaking the laws of these physics without even realizing it.
We are.
We're doing a deep dive into employee performance, what value has to do with it, by Dr. Harvey H. Miller from St. Mary's University.
And Dr. Millar's central argument is uh, pretty radical. He's suggesting that the whole traditional idea of management, controlling people, setting processes, is actually the wrong tool for the job.
The wrong tool for performance.
Exactly. He argues that if you want high performance, you have to stop thinking like a manager and start thinking like an artist.
Which, I'll be honest, that sounds a little fluffy at first glance. Leader as artist. It sounds like something from a corporate retreat where everyone's holding hands.
I get it, yeah.
But looking at the source materials, he's actually being very literal, right? He's talking about how you actually structure reality for your team.
Completely literal. This isn't about painting pictures. It's about the fact that human beings are, by their nature, unstructured and emotional.
Yeah.
You can't manage emotions with a spreadsheet. You have to. You have to craft them.
Okay, so before we get to the whole artist part, we have to understand the core mechanic he proposes. He calls it congruence. And this is the physics part, right? So let's break down congruence. I mean, in geometry, it means two shapes fit perfectly. What does that mean in an office?
In Dr. Miller's model, performance is a function of the match, or the congruence between two very specific things. First, you have the value profile of the employee.
Which is what they need, what they desire, what they value.
Exactly. And second, you have the value provisioning capability of the organization, which is just, what the company can actually give.
Okay, but I have to stop you there because value is one of those corporate buzzwords that has, it's lost our meaning. Usually when a boss says value, they mean salary plus benefits.
And that is exactly where the disconnect happens. That's why your Alex isn't performing. Dr. Miller defines value very, very specifically. He says satisfaction is the experience associated with a desire.
The experience associated with a desire. So value isn't a thing, it's a feeling.
It's the fulfillment of a specific want.
Yeah.
Let's say I have a deep desire for autonomy. I want to own my project. If you, as my boss, give me a 10% raise, but you also hover over my shoulder and check my emails, have you provided value?
In my bank account, yes. But in the value profile, no. I've actually created a deficit because I'm actively blocking your desire for autonomy.
Precisely. You are provisioning money, but I am desiring freedom. There is no congruence. The shapes just don't fit, and because they don't fit, performance stalls.
And this leads to that term in the presentation that I really latched onto, value topography.
It's a fantastic visual, isn't it?
It is. It creates this image of your workforce, not as a flat grid of cubicles, but as a landscape.
That's the reality. Every single employee has a different map inside their head. One person might have a huge mountain where they need recognition and public praise, and the person sitting right next to them could have a deep valley where they crave security and anonymity. That's their topography.
So the leader's job is to navigate that terrain. But here's the problem I see with this model, and I'm playing devil's advocate a bit. It sounds exhausting. If I have a team of 50 people, that's 50 different topographies.
50 different maps.
Right. I can't build a bespoke company for every single person. How on earth do you scale congruence?
And that is the million-dollar question. And this is where Dr. Miller pivots from the what to the how. He acknowledges you can't just mass produce these experiences. So what's the delivery mechanism for value? It's not a policy. It's not the employee handbook.
The source says it's relationships.
Organizational experiences are driven by human relationships. That is the direct quote. The relationship is the pipeline.
So the relationship isn't just the, the nice to have layer on top of the actual work. It is the infrastructure.
Think of it this way. If you need to deliver that autonomy we talked about, or safety or creative challenge, you can't just email it to someone.
Right.
You deliver it through how you speak to them, how you listen to them, how you react when they fail. That interaction is the relationship. And if the relationship is broken, if there's no trust, or if there's fear, the pipeline is clogged.
So you could have the best intentions in the world, but the value just never reaches the employee.
Never.
Wow. This puts a pretty heavy burden on the leader, though. It means you can't just be a manager in the traditional sense. You're not just moving resources around. You're basically an emotional engineer.
Or, to go back to the source's terminology, an artist.
Right, let's unpack that.
Yeah.
The leader as artist, this comes from Abraham Zalesnik, who's a heavy hitter in management theory.
Oh yeah, Zalesnik wrote a classic Harvard Business Review piece back in the 90s. And the quote Dr. Miller uses is, "Business leaders have much more in common with artists than they do with managers."
I feel like a lot of MBAs would bristle at that. I deal with hard facts, thank you very much, not art.
But look at the definition the source provides. It defines leadership as the art K of creating value in unstructured situations.
Unstructured situations. That's the key phrase, isn't it?
It is. Management is for structured situations.
Yeah.
If you're running a factory line and the goal is to make the same widget faster, you need a manager. You need process consistency control.
Okay.
But dealing with human beings, dealing with changing market trends, dealing with fear and ambition, that is totally unstructured. It's chaotic.
So the manager tries to force structure onto the chaos, whereas the artist tries to create form out of the chaos.
Exactly. An artist faces a blank canvas or a rough block of marble and has to visualize something that doesn't exist yet. A leader has to look at a team, which is a mess of different value topography,
Yeah.
and visualize a way to align them all toward a common goal.
That takes intuition, empathy, influence.
Things you can't do with a checklist.
The source also brings in John Cotter here to break down what this art actually looks like in practice. It's not just sitting around waiting for inspiration to strike.
No, it's active work.
Mm.
Cotter breaks it down into 3 buckets. First, setting direction. Miller calls this value scoping. You have to see the destination. Okay.
Second is aligning people. And this isn't ordering them to march, it's influencing them so they want to go there.
Which goes right back to the topography. You have to show them how that destination fits their personal map. Like, hey, climbing this hill will get you that recognition you want.
Exactly. And the third bucket is motivating people. And specifically, the source links this directly to relationship building. You don't motivate through policy, you motivate through human connection.
Okay, so we've got the theory. We need to be artists who build relationships to deliver this value congruence. But let's get practical. If I'm a leader listening to this and I realize, wow, I've been acting like a manager, not an artist, what tools do I need? I assume I can't just go buy a paintbrush.
The toolkit is emotional intelligence. Dr. Miller leans really heavily on Daniel Goleman's framework here. If relationships are the engine of performance, emotional intelligence EQ is the fuel. The source lists the big 5 components of EQ. We've got self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skill. I want to zoom in on a couple of these because I think they get misunderstood in a business context. Let's talk about self-regulation.
This is a huge one. The source defines it as controlling disruptive impulses and suspending judgment.
Which sounds like just having self-control, but why is that a value driver? How does that connect?
Because of the pipeline. Imagine a leader who lacks self-regulation. Something goes wrong and they snap, they yell, or they get passive-aggressive. In that one moment, they have made the environment unsafe.
They've polluted the topography.
They have. If I'm your employee, and I know you might explode at any moment, my main desire shifts from doing great work to protecting myself.
Ah, I see.
They've broken the congruence. So self-regulation isn't just about being polite. It's about maintaining the stability required for value to actually be delivered.
And then there's empathy. I feel like this word gets abused a lot. People think it just means being nice or agreeing with everyone.
It definitely doesn't mean agreeing. The source defines it as understanding the emotional makeup of others. It's data gathering.
Okay.
Remember that, value topography. You can't know someone's map if you can't read their signals.
So empathy is the scanner. It's how you find out that Alex values autonomy, but Sarah over there values guidance and structure.
Correct. Without empathy, you are flying blind. You're just guessing at what people want, and you're probably getting it wrong.
Now, there's another layer to this presentation that I found really interesting. It moves away from the psychological and into the physical. We've been talking about feelings and relationships, but Dr. Miller also talks about the environment.
Yes, the success factors. You can be the most empathetic artist leader in the world, but if you plant a beautiful flower in concrete, it's just not going to grow.
And the source explicitly mentions things like ergonomics, lighting, and aesthetics,
I know.
which seems so trivial when we're talking about high-level leadership. Fix the lights. But it goes back to that definition of value as an experience, doesn't it?
It does. If your desire is for clarity and focus and creativity, and you're working in some gray cubicle farm with flickering fluorescent lights and a chair that hurts your back, what is your experience?
Pain and distraction.
Exactly. The physical environment is actively subtracting value. It's fighting against the very performance you want.
The source also mentions the tension between agility and bureaucracy in how the organization is designed,
Well, bureaucracy is the enemy of the artist.
because it tries to replace the relationship with a rulebook.
It tries to structure the unstructured. If an employee has a problem and your answer is consult page 45 of the manual, you've just severed the human connection. You've stopped being a leader and you've gone right back to being a manager.
Okay, so we've built this fairly complex model. We have value topographies, the leader is artist, the EQ toolkit, the physical environment. But I have to play the skeptic one more time.
Go for it.
I can hear the CFO or the shareholders listening to this and saying, this sounds lovely. It sounds very humane. But we are running a business. We need profit. Does all this art actually make money?
It's the ultimate question. And frankly, it's why a lot of this stuff gets ignored. It's seen as soft. But Dr. Miller closes the loop with something called the service profit chain. And this is arguably the most important diagram in the whole presentation.
It connects the feelings to the financials.
It connects them in a causal chain. It starts exactly where we started, the employee value proposition.
So step one, we achieve congruence. The employee is getting what they need.
Right. That leads to employee satisfaction, which in turn leads to employee retention and productivity.
Which makes total sense. Happy people stay longer and they work harder. That saves money on turnover and recruitment right there.
True. But the chain keeps going. Productive long-term employees deliver a better customer value proposition. They know the product, they know the clients, they actually care about the outcome.
So now the customer is feeling the congruence.
Which leads to customer satisfaction, which leads to customer loyalty. And finally, at the very end of the chain, you get profitability and growth.
The aha moment here, and the source is really clear on this, is that profit is at the very end.
It's a lagging indicator.
Explain that concept for us, lagging indicator.
It means it's the score at the end of the game. You can't manage the score directly. You can't just stare at the scoreboard and yell, go up. You have to manage the play on the field.
Okay.
Profit is what happens after you get all the behavior right.
So if a company tries to shortcut this chain, if they say, we need more profits, so let's cut costs, remove all the soft stuff, and just push people harder, what are they actually doing?
They're cutting the root to save the fruit. If you break the chain at the beginning, if you ignore employee value, you stop the whole flow that eventually creates the profit. You might get a short-term bump, but the engine will eventually seize up.
It's a paradox then. To get the hard results, the money, you have to focus on the soft inputs, the relationships.
Because performance is a behavioral phenomenon. You cannot force behavior in the long run. You can only create the conditions, the congruence, where that behavior naturally emerges.
That really democratizes the whole idea of performance. We often think performance is just about hiring A players, but this suggests it's more about building an A environment.
Absolutely.
You could have a B player, but if the value congruence is perfect, they might outperform an A player who's just miserable.
Absolutely. The Alex from your intro, the superstar who failed, didn't fail because he suddenly lost his skills. He failed because the environment didn't provision the value he needed to unlock those skills.
So let's bring this home for everyone listening. We've covered a lot of ground, from topography to lagging indicators. If someone is driving to work right now, heading into a management role, what is the one shift they need to make today?
I think they need to stop assuming.
Stop assuming they know what their team wants.
Stop assuming that what motivates you also motivates them. Stop assuming a paycheck is enough. You need to go back to that value topography. You need to become an explorer of your own team.
So ask the questions. What do you need? What does a good day at work look like for you?
Exactly. Understand the organization at the relationship level. That's the mandate. Because until you know the topography, you're just wandering in the dark. You can't be an artist if you don't even look at your subject.
And realizing that you are an artist is kind of empowering, I think. It takes the drudgery out of management. You aren't just a compliance officer. You're an architect of human potential.
And remember Zelezny's point, the world is unstructured. The future is uncertain. The manager is terrified of that. The artist, however, thrives in it. So don't be afraid to be the artist. Don't be afraid to be a preacher of the vision or a philosopher about the meaning of the work.
Because that isn't wasted time.
That is the work.
And as the service profit chain proves, that is the work that ultimately pays the bills.
Ideally, yes.
This has been a really refreshing look at the nuts and bolts of why we work. It's nice to be reminded that at the end of the day, business is deeply human. The math only works if the emotions work.
That's the bottom line.
Dr. Harvey Miller's presentation, Employee Performance, What Value Has to Do with It, really lays it out. Turns out, value has everything to do with it.
Everything.
So here is our final provocative thought for you to take with you. We've talked about the difference between management and art. If you opened your calendar right now, really just visualize your week, what's the ratio?
Oof, that's a scary question.
How many hours are blocked off for management reports, emails, checking boxes, compliance, and how many hours are specifically blocked off for art, connecting with people, listening, inspiring, mapping the topography of your team?
For most of us, I'm guessing the art column is pretty empty.
And then we wonder why performance is flat. Maybe it's time to schedule a little more art.
The science suggests it's the best investment you could possibly make.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. Good luck mapping your topography. We'll see you next time.